Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I guess that most of us here this morning have suffered sickness or disability at one time or another, and no doubt some of you are feeling its effects today. Sickness, it intrudes our life, does it not? As well as pain and disability, it takes away our certainty, our safety, and our hope for the future. It's a lot like a burglar entering our home. We feel that our privacy has gone. Something precious has been taken. Well, such an intrusion occurred to a woman in Jesus' time. Her encounter with Jesus is told in our reading this morning, read for us by Emma. And this incident took place on the street with a crowd of excited people. The crowd is there not to shop or to do business, but to catch a glimpse of Jesus. These are ordinary people. They speak of Jesus with deep affection. His fame has trickled down to forgotten men and women. Of course, it's Jesus of Nazareth, and is known to those with sickness and disabilities. Now, Jesus, as you heard in our reading, is on his way to restore the health of a young woman who was dying. She was the daughter of a man named Jairus, who was the ruler of the local synagogue. And the crowd are following in order to see Jesus perform this miracle with Jairus' daughter. But on that matter, opinion is divided. Some are saying that he can do it, and others are doubtful. But on his way, Jesus is interrupted by an older woman who is very sick. Who she is doesn't matter. It's enough that we know that she is a woman in pain. For 12 years she has suffered with her condition, and of course 12 years is a long time. She wants relief. She hopes that Jesus can heal her. Now, sickness makes us do some strange things. Pain and disability can make us desperate. Not satisfied with conventional treatment, which this woman had tried, by the way, the sick may seek alternative treatments. Some alternatives may prove valid, even miraculous. Others may turn to quackery. But at least they are something to do and to try. Now, this woman by now was willing to try anything to bring healing to her body. She had heard about Jesus being a healer. So she came up behind him in the crowd and she touched his cloak. She was like a frightened puppy. She wanted to steal a blessing, but at the same time remain anonymous. All she wanted to do was touch his garment and then depart. And she thinks to herself, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Now, can you imagine her nervous reasoning? Touch him just to touch him. There would be no harm in that. Touch him on the head? No, that would be irreverent. On the hand? No, that would be too familiar. But there can't be any harm in touching his robes as he passes. I might get some of that power. Think for a moment and consider the magnitude of that. This woman believes in Jesus' power. She knows in her heart that Jesus can pull off a healing, or at least she is desperate enough to give it a try. To squeeze through the crowd and reach out to touch his garment and then slink back into the crowd. And what do we see? We see that in one moment, this woman displays both faith and fear. And what does this say to us? Well, when we are so desperate that we know we have nothing left to lose, we can risk being brave and we can reach out to Jesus. And as instantaneously as this woman touched Jesus, he sensed that healing power had gone out of him. No one noticed her, no one but Jesus. And he turned round to see who had touched him, who had just been healed, and why. He asked, "Who touched my clothes?" He looks for her, but she doesn't want to be found. But very soon she plucks up the courage to present herself to Jesus, and Jesus says to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." Jesus calls her daughter. She had been a daughter of death. Now she is a daughter of life. In an instant, her body regains control. She is granted a new identity. She now has a certain future. And of course, she also regains her place in society, restored to wholeness, and she rediscovers hope. In an instant, Jesus heals her sickness, eases her suffering, grants her freedom, and saves her soul. The other miracle of this story is that it is the only miracle recorded in Scripture where we see that no word was spoken or action displayed by Jesus. But there is another miracle lurking here. Notice that she didn't meet Jesus in a house of worship. She met him on the street. She had no private audience with Jesus. She touched him in a crowd. And most profoundly of all, she touched him in faith, in desperate believing faith. And Jesus stopped. That is the miracle that none of us should miss. The touch of one anonymous woman in a crowd halted the Lord of glory. And that's the glorious message of this miracle. She touched him, and so can we. The human touch has the power to attract God, to make him aware of your problems, your prayers, and your thoughts. We need to touch him. Most of us are crowding him, just like the crowd on that day. But it's easy to crowd the Lord and never actually touch him. Many people in the church and many people outside of the church are crowding Jesus, but not trusting him. Yes, people are seeking Jesus today, but they've not been found by him. Coming close to him, but never actually touching him. But coming close to Jesus is not enough. It's like missing a bus. You may miss it by 1 minute, and that's pretty close. You've lost the bus, it's gone, and you're left behind. Coming near to Jesus will not bring healing. We have to touch him for ourselves. But how can we touch Christ? It's one thing for that woman long ago, but how can we touch Jesus Christ today? Firstly, give God a chance. Take your problem, whatever it may be, to Jesus in prayer. Secondly, believe that God will hear you. Remember that he heard this woman who only touched the hem of his garment. Believe in faith that he cares what happens to you. Thirdly, be patient. God doesn't answer every prayer on a Sunday morning. You may have to wait a while. The person, I can tell you, the person who waits on God loses no time. Fourthly, reach out and touch him. It is one thing to crowd the Lord and quite another to trust him. Many people jump or bump into Jesus, but few reach out and touch him. And finally, When he does speak to you, do what he tells you. He may not tell you audibly, you may not hear his voice, but generally through your own conscience or through the counsel of your friends, he will indicate the course of action. The message of this miracle is that one woman, the end of her tether, had the courage to step out of normal procedures to find healing and hope. She touched the Lord of the universe. He stopped for her, and he will stop for you. Please don't miss that miracle. Amen.